Hi everyone, Jay Egersdorff here, chatting about game week 29 at the Fantasy Premier League. We're just one day away from game week 28 that wrapped up last night. So chat about that. I'm going to chat about game week 29, usual stuff as well, left field options, FPL donut, and we'll chat captaincy options as well. So quite a lot of stuff to get stuck into. Let's start last night, shall we? As I said, game week 28 wrapped up. Pretty disappointing. It seems to be the theme at the minute. 46 points and a hefty red arrow, ouch, to 560k. So not a great thing to wake up to this morning. Aguero, I brought in Aguero for Rashford and that paid off, so that brought in 9 points versus Rashford's 1, so that's pretty good. Robertson did well, and then other than that, a whole bunch of 1s and 2s. It was going to be a pretty tough game week from Tuesday night. I purposefully didn't check the scores until I went to bed at sort of 10 o'clock, and on the face of it, looked alright, particularly that Everton result. There were 3-0 winners at Cardiff. I had Richarlison, so I clicked on to see who'd scored, and of course found out Richarlison had done nothing. So I was on 8 points from 4 players on Tuesday night, so I'm kind of thinking, I need Aguero, I need Salah, I need Pogba to deliver. And whilst Pogba and Aguero did deliver, what a disappointment, what a shocker that is that Salah doesn't score or assist in a Liverpool 5-0 win. And it kind of is pretty frustrating, but at the same time, what I tend to do in this situation is not question whether I've completely lost the ability to play FPL. I actually reflect on what's actually happened here. And if you take a step back and look at that Liverpool score, I talked about this at earlier points in the season. If you'd have gone in the bookies yesterday and said, I'd like to put a bet on Liverpool to win 5-0, Salah's going to play the majority of the match, he's not going to score any of the 5 and he's not going to set any of them up, you'd have got pretty good odds, right? So if that's happened to you and you've captained Salah and you're feeling really bad about it, I really wouldn't. I mean, what can you do about that? It's pretty long odds, isn't it, that would happen. The other thing that kind of made me laugh as well was Van Dijk obviously hits 2 and gets like a gazillion points, and I thought to myself, there's probably people who have Van Dijk as captain who set up a team in August and have probably gone past me in like the overall rankings just because what's the likelihood that Van Dijk is going to get 2 goals in one match? Pretty identical goals as well. Likewise on the Alexander-Arnold stuff, hats off to anyone who had him, but again, 3 assists in one game. You know, it's not very often that happens. It's kind of quite unlikely, and obviously Robertson got the 2. I mean, factor all that in, a Liverpool 5-0 win, where, I mean, what odds would you get on this? 5-0 win, Van Dijk 2 goals, and the goals were all set up by Alexander-Arnold and Robertson. I mean, it'd be like, if I put £1 on that, I'd be paying off my mortgage and living in Hawaii or something. So you really can't get too upset if you know you've had a big ranking drop for this week, because I'm really confident you can, you know, good FPL players and people that are playing the game and taking an interest in active players can still climb the rankings. So another thing I did to keep myself completely sane and not think I was losing the plot was the guy who's at the top at the minute is a Finnish guy called Tony. You know I'm rubbish with names. Tony Harponen. So hello Tony. For some coincidence you do tune in. So he's top of the tree. He's on 1,933 points. To put that in context, I'm on 1,564. That's a difference of 369. Tony has already played his second wild card. He's free hit and he's played his triple captain already. So the only chip he has left, of course I've got all mine left, is bench boost. So that begs the question then, and this is always quite a debate that you see in the FPL community. How many points is each chip worth? I know you can't actually put a figure on that, it's hard to measure, but you know, there's a big difference there, 369, but let's say, is the wild card worth 50 points, 100 points? Like I said, it's hard to actually put a figure on, but even if you said each of them's worth 50, well suddenly that lead comes down to in the region of 200 points with 10 game weeks left to go. It's not impossible to still win it. I'm not for a second thinking I'm betting on myself to win the whole thing, but what I'm saying is trying to put a bit of context around it. Only matters what rank you end up on game week 38. It doesn't matter where you are now. It matters to a degree, but all we care about is where we finish up. So don't get too downbeat, don't get too fed up if the luck's against you at the minute. Just keep playing consistently, keep playing your own game, and hopefully you'll get there in the end. So that's my view on 28. Let's check the notes, make sure I've gone through everything that I want to chat about there. I think I have. So on to game week 29. So we've got game week 29, we've got game week 30, and then we've got this game week 31 where obviously there's a reduced number of teams playing, and everybody, myself included, is jumping on people from Leicester, West Ham, Newcastle, etc. The teams that do have a fixture in game week 31, and I've reflected on this a little bit, and I thought, is that kind of a trap? And I did talk about this in the last video when I said that there were 3 game weeks, obviously the one yesterday and the next 2 included, where there's a lot of football to be played. There's a lot of teams with really good fixtures. Man City, of course, were one of them I talked about, and they got the win last night, albeit only 1-0. So do we want to fill our teams up with players that might not be on form? I've done it. I've put in Felipe Anderson, and he's not done great, but I'm staying positive that he's got a couple of good fixtures coming up now that might help him. I've still got Richarlison hanging around. I've still got that twit Rico in goals, who is, I think, literally, if I stuck on a pair of keeper gloves, I might do better than him. So I think I'm keeping on to people like that because they've got a fixture in game week 31. And you think about it, and I got a tweet from the editor, the FPL editor, hello to you. He sent me a really very straightforward, very logical tweet that I totally agree with. He's just talking about if over the next 3 games, Rico's probably going to return like 2 points a game. That seems to be his average, if that. Somebody else could just get a clean sheet straight away, take a 4-point hit, and already you're breaking even, and somebody else could get more points. So where I'm going with that is saying, hang on a minute, is this game week 31 thing a trap? Because when you actually look at the fixtures, I actually think you need 3 Liverpool players for that Fulham game. Most people have probably got 2 already, and you probably need a couple of West Ham players. I myself have got Anderson, of course, already, because they've got that Huddersfield game. But other than that, there's not tons of great value out there. There's not tons of really predictable stuff. Burnley are playing Leicester, could be like quite tight, and Everton Chelsea, of course. So I'm just thinking, and what I'm trying to say is just let's all not get too bogged down in the fact that we have to tie ourselves into these players, and I'll chat more about that in a bit later. A few things I think might happen this week. I'll be interested to see Spurs' reaction. They're at home to Arsenal, of course, in the derby. 2 really, I don't want to say it, but they're very Spursy results, aren't they? Going and losing at Burnley and losing again at Chelsea, and had they won those games, they'd be like, I think, 3 points behind, and classic. We see it so many times, don't we? Poor old Spurs. Chelsea, have they turned the corner? I thought they played really great in that Carabao Cup, and I felt really sorry for them at the end, because I thought on balance they could have nicked that game, especially that strange offside decision for Hazard at the end, and then they get a good result last night as well. So is that a bit of a corner that they've turned there? Maybe. I think the problem with Chelsea is, who do you get? Because outside of Hazard, Higuain hasn't really started great. Midfield, pretty bang average, isn't it? Not many FPL points floating around there. I suppose you might look to the defence, but it's a tough one because there's potentially some rotation happening there, particularly Alonso, Emerson, and obviously we've seen the goalies rotating because of the discipline problem with Kepa. Interested to see Leicester with Rodgers. You've got to say that's a pretty positive appointment. You would like to think that would be an improvement for Leicester, but I do wonder, whilst a new manager often does bring an upturn in fortune, Rodgers is more of a man manager, a coach, and maybe we'll see the real benefit once he's had some time to work with particularly a very young squad of players. So maybe we'll see the benefit of that. Might even be next season now. A big benefit, a big turn round in style, but I still think Leicester have got some great fixtures and they're interesting. The other thing I noticed, and I was prepping for the video and I was looking at the league table, I couldn't believe this. So really interesting. So the teams that are in 7th, 8th and 9th, Watford, Wolves and Everton, look at their goal difference. Watford is -1 and the other 2 teams are on 0. So their goal difference, they've scored as many as they've conceded. only the top 6 have got a positive goal difference. I thought that was mad. I thought that was really, really fascinating. It goes to show from an FPL point of view, if you're betting or taking a top 6 player, statistically there is more chance that they're going to return a positive FPL score for you, because it tells you they score more goals than they concede, and of course we get rewarded for goals and clean sheets. Whereas the other teams, it's almost like you look at Wolves, Everton, Watford, and it's kind of like a coin toss there, because their goal difference is obviously neutral, and for the teams below, the probability is they're more likely to concede a goal than they are to score based on that goal difference fact. So I thought that was quite interesting. It feeds back into my Game Week 31 argument. There's only Chelsea and Liverpool playing out the top 6. So it is a bit of a luck of the draw, isn't it, if we fill our team up full of Leicester, West Ham and these sorts of players. Final thing just before I move on to left field options. Where are the double game week fixtures? Does anyone know? It's like we had this Man United Wolves fixture and everyone got excited, and then that's it. I'm kind of sat here trying to plan and trying to work out what's coming. To anyone know the answer to that? Be interested to find out whether they're going to get announced. They're just sat doing nothing, which is a bit strange. So that's Game Week 29, left field options. So it's tough to actually pick out players now, because everybody's lumping on the players for Game Week 31. So I've looked at it a bit differently, and I've pulled out teams that I think have got their next 3 fixtures. Yes, they have a blank in Game Week 31, but I think their next 3 fixtures look really good. So Brighton, they've got Huddersfield at home, and they're away at Palace, then Southampton at home. These guys need to win. These guys are desperate. They've fallen down the table. You're looking at some of their key men. I know Gross is out for the weekend, but Glenn Murray, Shane Duffy, Matt Ryan, cheap goalie. You've got to be thinking they're going to want to be grinding out some 1-0ers. That seems to be what Brighton are pretty good at, keeping it tight, particularly at home. Palace have got some good fixtures. They're away at Burnley, then they've got Brighton at home, and then they've got Huddersfield at home. Again, really attractive. And City, Bournemouth away. Bournemouth seem to be letting in a lot of goals at the minute. Watford home. They've got Fulham, obviously the blank, and then Fulham, and I think that might be a double game week 32, but it's not been announced, and then Cardiff at home. So I'm just sort of making that point again, that everybody's focused on game week 31, but I'm saying, if you can look at the bigger picture, particularly if you don't have chips and wildcards left. It might hurt you a little bit in the short term. Maybe game week 31 you don't score that high, but you can protect yourself, as I've discussed. But long term that might reward you. So that's the left field bit. Donut is a bit tricky. I mean, on paper we've got to give it to Trippier, haven't we, for that home goal, which is pretty funny. Not obviously for a Spurs fan, but I think not many people have him. So Richarlison, I do want to give it to him, but he did get 3 points. That's not a complete disaster. So I think I'm going for Eden Hazard. And I know a big popular person in the community, the FPL General, hater him, stuck with Hazard, which I thought was really brave, and I didn't think it was a bad move. I thought it was a logical move, and he was right, because Chelsea won 2-0. But the guy got brought off after 59 minutes. Can you believe it? I mean, that is just rotten luck. Fulham next, so maybe he'll bounce back for you, mate. But I think we've got to go with, 11 million or 10.8 or something. So poor old Eden Hazard, you are the FPL donut. And then lastly, tough one on captain, isn't it? Really tricky. So you've got Salah away to Everton. It's always a hard game, that derby match, isn't it? You look at that and you think that's going to be a tough match. Pogba at home to Southampton, I think obviously looks good. You might want to go Rashford. Probably want to wait for some injury news. But the one that has really caught my eye and could be a big differential is maybe Sterling. Got a rest in midweek. City are down at Bournemouth. Bournemouth letting in plenty of goals, and City obviously need to win. City are the team that scored the most goals in the league. So I think I'll be looking at those. You've got the London derby, haven't you? Kane and Aubameyang, and again, derby matches, hard to predict. So of course that Sterling one I think maybe hinges on Aguero, because he's a good option too, but Pep has come out and said the poor guy is exhausted from all this football he's got to play because Jesus is injured. So all eyes on the press conferences for me, and see what happens there. So thank you guys for all your support and for watching the video and tuning in every week. Shout out as ever to my Patreon crew who are supporting the FPL Masterclass project that I've been doing this season. I hope that's been of interest to you, and if you want to check that out, I put up a new video just last week which is about how to win your mini league, and there's a whole bunch of different articles and bits and pieces that I do on there, so check that out. I'll put a link up below. Other than that, go and have a good weekend, enjoy game week 29, and hopefully we'll find those double game week fixtures, they'll turn up somewhere. Cheers everyone.